Okay, so what I want to look at in this lesson is dividing complex numbers. So if we have a look at this first example here, so what we're looking at, we're taking a complex number. So remember the complex number in this case is 4 plus 10i, and remember a complex number has a real part and then it has this imaginary part which is 10i. And what we want to do is we want to divide it by 5. So we're just dividing a complex number by a real number. When you do that, the same as when we multiply a complex number by a real number, all you have to do is you just divide each part of the complex number by the real number. So this here will become, so it'll be 4 divided by 5 plus 10 divided by 5. So what you can do then is you can actually simplify that then. So 5 will divide into 5 once and 5 will divide into 10 twice. So that will become 2i, and there's nothing really much more that you can do with this guy here. So it's just going to stay as 4 over 5 plus 2i. So that's just when we're dividing a complex number by a real number. So you just divide each part by the real number and then you simplify it as much as you can. Now, the next part then is when we're looking at, let's say, so here we have two complex numbers, and what we're doing is we're dividing these two complex numbers by each other. So we've the complex number 6 plus 2i, and then we have another complex number 2 minus 3i. So the step one, what you want to do is you need to get the conjugate of the denominator. So remember, the top part of the fraction is the numerator, the bottom part of the fraction is called the denominator. So we look at the denominator and we get what's called the conjugate of the denominator. So if we have a look here, so the denominator is 2 minus 3i. Okay, so that's the denominator. And remember, so z1 is equal to 2 minus 3i. So z1 is just like a placeholder for complex numbers. So we want to get its conjugate. So remember, the symbol we use to represent the conjugate is this z bar. So the conjugate then is equal to 2 plus 3i. So all you're doing is you're taking the sign in front of the conjugate and you are changing it to its opposite sign, which in this case is a positive. So the conjugate of 2 minus 3i is 2 plus 3i. The next step then is you want to multiply the top and the bottom of the fraction by the conjugate of the denominator. So the conjugate of this is the conjugate of the denominator, and what you need to do is you multiply the top and the bottom by this conjugate. So it looks like that. Okay, so all you're doing is you're multiplying this by this and then this by this. So we multiply it out. So 6 by 2 gives me 12. 6 by plus 3 gives me plus 18i. Then we have 2 by 2, 2i by 2 gives me plus 4i. And then 2i by plus 3i gives me plus 6i squared. When you multiply I by I, it's squared, so it becomes I squared. And then we do the same with the bottom. So it's 2 multiplied by 2 gives me 4, and then 2 multiplied by plus 3 gives me plus 6i. And then we have minus 3i multiplied by 2 gives me minus 6i, and minus 3i multiplied by plus 3i gives me minus 9i squared. Okay, so that's it. We've multiplied the top and the bottom by the conjugate of the denominator. So the next thing then we want to do is we want to simplify the top and the bottom. So that just means we collect up any like terms. So there's nothing else that I can collect up 12 with, so 12 just stays the same. We can collect up this 18i and the plus 4i. We can add these together because they're like terms. So that's going to be equal to plus 22i. So just 18i plus 4i, that gives me 22i. And then we have just the 6i squared. Okay, so that's the top part simplified. We want to simplify the bottom part. So again, we have 4, we can't do anything more with that, so we just keep it the way it is. We have plus 6i minus 6i, so again, they'll just cancel out. It'll just be 0i, so it just gets rid of it. And then minus I squared, like so. The next part then is, so we take this rule where I squared is equal to minus 1. And anywhere we have an I squared, we replace it, we substitute in minus 1 in its place. So this is step 4, if you like. So step 4. So replace I squared with minus 1. So we do that. So as you can see here, so we're taking this top part and we're taking this I squared here. and we're substituting in -1. And then we do the same with the bottom, so just with this guy here, and we're substituting in -1. So that's what we have here. So then we can just multiply this out. So we have, so +6 -1, that's just going to become -6, and then 12 minus 6 will just be equal to 6, so the top will become 6 plus 22y, and then the bottom part will become 4 minus 9 times -1, so -9 multiplied by -1 will give me +9, and then +9 and +4 will give me 13. So this then will simplify to 6 plus 22i over 13, and now we're back to the same situation we were like with here, when we're just taking a real number and dividing it by a complex number. So you just divide each part of the complex number by the real number that's at the bottom. So you end up with 6 over 13 plus 22i over 13. Now, if you're able to, and you can simplify these, so if there's something that will divide into the top and the bottom, you can do that. In this case, there's nothing that's going to divide in evenly into the top and the bottom, so they just stay the way they are. So that's the steps that we follow when we are dividing complex numbers by each other. So we go through these steps here. So hopefully that makes sense, and we will look at diagrams then in the next lesson. Okay, thank you for listening.